Good morning. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I am Brigid Burke, and it is the 1st of July. Amazingly, we are sort of the halfway point of the year, and we've passed the summer solstice, which was I think this year it was on the 20th, so really probably about 10 days in. And probably by the middle of this week to next week, we're going to be moving into a period that has to do with, oftentimes there's a phrase associated with the waning moon called Krishna Paksha. And this has to do with when things move into the dark phases of something. Now, I think there might be another term for that in terms of when we're talking about the entire year between solstices and equinoxes. But that's the term that comes to mind as Krishna Paksha, which usually has to do with the dark of the moon. And these are all the different phases in which you might be astrologically, whether or not you're born, which moon phase you're born in, whether you're born on a light day, on a darker day, like what, and what kind of impact that might have on your chart. Because a waning chart, just like what they would call a higher pada. There's like 4 padas or feet in Vedic astrology. So if you are in a particular sign, are you in the first, second, third, or fourth pada? And that may indicate whatever the aspect or lesson is of that particular sign. How far along are you in your journey? If you're at the beginning, then this is a new thing for you. If you're towards the end, you're like, yeah, okay, I'm finishing this up. So anyway, point being is that we are moving into that Krishna, what I would call the Krishna Paksha side of the year. And that is when we start moving towards autumn. So it's perfect for me because I, as we know, and I apologize, it's just, I feel like I have a lot of allergies when I wake up in the morning. I don't have them, like, I'm not sniffling, but they all seem to be kind of go right here. And I watch these live streams watch them back again, and I'm like, oh, I've got all this coughing that's going on. So, or throat clearing really more than coughing. So anyway, hopefully I can control that a little bit. But as you can see, I'm in my, it's very autumnal today. Today is beautiful, and I'm thinking of autumn because it is probably only, I think this morning was like 58 or 59 degrees Fahrenheit, which for those of you in the Celsius part of the world, use it Celsius as your temperature gauge, I would say that's probably around maybe 11 or 12 degrees. Maybe 13. It's like kind of in that neighborhood. And that to me is just perfect. I love this weather. I love these. I love it when it's cool like this. And as people already know, like I said, I've got my very autumnal colored cup, and the coffee today that I've just actually used up this box, is the Autumn Pumpkin Spice, which I ended up ordering from Amazon year-round because I love it. And you can only tend to find this in the store, obviously, during the autumn. But for the autumn, let's say aficionados like myself, it is available year-round. Just like pumpkin beer, if you happen to like that. I think I had lucked out because I do enjoy. I'm not one of those people who says, avoid all alcohol and things like that, because I'm like, no, I think a good quality beer. I don't understand really like sitting around drinking Budweiser and stuff like that. I don't get. But it's a nice, good quality beer. I do like, pumpkin beer does give me a nice autumnal feel. And I lucked out because they had some in a store where I go, if I pick up wine and stuff. I said, oh, they have some of the pumpkin beer left over. They were charging an awful lot per 6-pack. And the guy came over to me, he's like, if you buy those up, he's like, I'll sell them to you for $2 each. I was like, sold. So I have a stash of this kind of stuff. I don't need that much of it, but I was just like, if it was $16 normally, a 6-pack, 16 or 17, and now it's like 2. I was like, that's a no-brainer. So anyway, just mentioning that, but yes, today's a very autumnal day, which means I'm already been happy these mornings because I have a lot of inspiration. Doing the Rahani stuff has just been, again, really good. I have been, because one of the things I've been working on, I talked yesterday about a dream that I had, and I had another odd dream about my mother last night, which I won't discuss here, but I feel like it's all the areas, when I actually do the Rahani, you can actually feel the energy highlighting certain areas of your body, and lately it's been highlighting this side, which is actually, interestingly, the left side. It has to do with the parts that seem to be affected, even though I don't necessarily feel pain in them. Those are the parts that emotionally have to do with either self-sabotage or they have to do with the idea that you're not doing enough and you have to keep doing more, or you have to prove yourself in some way, and it's just there may be just like a high amount of energy. So it seemed to be kind of trying to balance that out and say, no, you don't need to do that. And there's just been a kind of a left side release, which is really interesting, or being kind of maybe reluctant to take in certain information and to learn certain things. So, and of course, there's other archangels that you can bring in as far as inspiration and things go. And one of the things, I've kind of talked about used on and off is like, okay, can I maintain this business? When, especially summers when it's slow, do I need to go back and get other work? And really, I just said, if I could just get 2 sessions, or even just 2, like, even if somebody booked, like I'm having a lot of people booking the Rahani subscriptions. And the subscription's a really, really good price, because for 1 hour, usually it's $65. If I'm doing it remotely in person, it's probably going to be more the regular price. But again, I'm going to still negotiate that when I actually go to work in person doing this. But just because the space, and then I have to pay the person for the space, and so on and so forth. So it ends up having to be a little more in person. But right now I'm doing 3 sessions for $150, which as people know, that's what I usually charge for 1 hour. And some people think that $150 is a lot for an hour, but it's really not. I mean, because when I do, I can do an hour. That's interesting. An hour of tarot. I can do, but I usually do tarot in combination with other things. If someone comes to me for an hour tarot reading, then I will sit down and I might also do some astrology, and with that I might also I'll pull from a number of different decks, so you're not just getting like, oh, here's 3 cards, that was an hour, bye. I always do a lot more if I'm going to do that, because the idea is that we are kind of working our way. Sometimes people just generally want to know what's going on, but I also sometimes, if there's a specific thing that they're working on, then we kind of spend some time working through that. And of course, obviously, that's my coaching time too. So people who want to come in for coaching, but if people say, well, I don't need coaching and mentoring, but I do want to know about this, I do all of that in the hour. So, I always, there's always a lot for that amount. It's never just, you get a quick thing. And sometimes people just want to talk for that hour too. So it's completely, it's very dependent. That's why I kind of keep it fluid, saying, okay, it's an hour and let's see what comes up. But to get 3 sessions, basically you're getting 3 separate hours. You're basically getting 3 hours for the price of 1. So, and the Rahani is just so good. And when you've had the first session, he starts working and unblocking things. And then by the time you get to the second and third, some people need more than that. It all depends. There's all kinds of different variations as to what people's situations are. And I talked a little bit about some of that yesterday. The way that we go through healing, and the way sometimes it's like we want to be healed, but we also sometimes resist it too. So there's lots of things that happen there, but it just seems to be the results of it are just really, really amazing. And I'm just finding that I feel like I have the confidence and the inspiration now to do what it is that I need. I have a plan. Like now I know, it was like the plan just, good morning, Melissa. I was just gonna say, I have like a plan now as to how I want to actually do things. And that's just come through in the last couple days working with Archangel Gabriel, who is has to do with inspiration in the Rahani master and angel system. So because I hadn't, because I've been working through them. I had a couple days working with Hamuel, where that's where I was having those dreams of finding where the blocks were, where I had that really weird dream that I had yesterday that just really kind of was transformative. This stuff is just really powerful. So today I'm going to actually be going out and making some videos. It's a beautiful day, so I'm like, I have to. Monday's usually my day. I do a live stream at noon for the Katonia channel. But this is also the day that I usually catch up on paperwork. This is the day that I go out and, if I'm going to make special things or do things, like Monday's my day to do it. Usually I don't book client appointments on Monday and Tuesday. And in theory, that's my weekend, right? But I end up doing this live stream. I do the other live stream. I also need to record tarot videos today because I just didn't get to that this weekend. I cleaned my house, which is feels so much better now that I've gotten that done. And I did have some appointments yesterday. So it's been quite a busy thing, but I'm not unhappy about that at all. I think that's just really, really great. And so I have some ideas about how to move forward. And I won't be discussing in person, at least not up in Milford, until probably, I believe it's going to be after the 6th, because I know that the shop owner is not going to be back until after that. She's away this week. So we're gonna talk about it after that. But I am going to be putting together informational videos on Rahani and about what it does. And I'm also going to have sessions for people, and people who attend those sessions, I can also offer a little bit more of a discount. It's already deeply discounted when I do it online, but it may be it might be an additional 10% or something for people who actually come to the sessions. So I'm going to be working through stuff like that this week and getting it up. And I'm happy doing it because I'm just really excited about this. I mean, and I just feel like I feel like a completely different person. It's not that all of a sudden magically all of your issues go away, but at the same time, it's like somehow your ability to deal with it just shifts and changes, and you can feel how everything, it's meant to transform energy that makes you feel despair and blocked and unable to move forward. And it's meant to say, okay, no, we're going to transform this into energy that makes you excited and happy and playful and wanting to live and being able to meet challenges and so forth. And so far, I can't, it works as advertised. I don't know how else to say it. So, but anyway, so rather than talk about this sort of endlessly, the topic that I did have today that came up for me was the topic of what they call, the word that comes in my mind is epiphany. Okay. Now, so what I mean by an epiphany is there's basically 3 different types of experiences that people talk about. This is my religious studies hat going on again. So you can have what they call an aesthetic experience. Okay. So what that means is aesthetics has to do with beauty, things that are beautiful. So we may go out, like I'm looking out this morning, I'm looking out the window, and the sunrise is beautiful, the clouds are pretty, and that can spark a sense of wonder or joy or interest. Or we can just see something, like we can walk into a garden, people who go visit gardens and say, wow, look at these beautiful flowers, look at all this beautiful stuff. And then you may have an experience. You may feel inspired. You may feel artistically inspired. You may just feel, it may just produce some other kind of a very positive or pleasant emotion just by encountering something that pleases the eye, something that makes that looks and feels beautiful. And so that is what they will call an aesthetic experience. It's something where you are inspired by that. A lot of times when I read atheistic texts about what they call a numinous experience. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, everybody else who's joined. The aesthetic experience is one where we feel inspired by, like I said, you sit and watch a beautiful sunset on the beach and you go, wow, like you have this feeling that overpowers you. And a lot of times when I've seen, like Dan Dennett, I think is the one I'm thinking of particularly, had written about this, and he had said, oh, well, a numinous experience is just like when you see a beautiful sunset, but that's just, and he was trying to explain it in terms of, and I'm like, well, no, that's actually not a numinous experience. That's an aesthetic experience. And that just means, that's just the way that we interact when we see things that are beautiful and can fill us with wonder. Okay, so that's aesthetic. Aesthetic experiences can actually go the other way too. I think, and that's rarely talked about, but even experiences of terror, like somebody who, for example, who likes watching scary movies, and even though and likes that thrill of being scared by seeing something that is frightening, that also is part of that. Oh, I'm so late. You're fine. Actually, I'm looking at 6:44 already. Wow, I can't believe I've been talking that long already. It's okay. The recording will be here. So I have. So there's the aesthetic experience. And when we talk about, so that's different from the numinous experience. A numinous experience is something that is usually connected with the religious experience. And that is something that shakes you so profoundly that you just have no doubt about something. It's like an encounter with the sacred. And that is something that is harder to define and is definitely, and that can be either, it can be terrifying in its own way, but it can also be something that is just, it just bowls us over and we're just like, whoa, wow, I can't, and after you have it, there's just the rational mind cannot come in and explain away what happens in a numinous experience. Some people connect it with, encountering, when people say who believe in ghosts, for example, might encounter what they consider to be a numinous presence, although I think the numinous experience is actually stronger than even seeing a ghost. It's an experience of the other with a capital O, something that is other than what we're used to in our day-to-day experience, life, nature. That would be something numinous. So when people try to say an aesthetic experience is numinous, they're not the same thing at all. One could inspire a feeling that's like the other, especially if you end up having a numinous experience that's blissful or full of wonder, because you can have that. I've had them. I've been fortunate enough to have them, and when I do have them, it's really weird because there's almost like no emotion associated with it at all for me, but it's a very clear feeling of, okay, I get it. I can't explain it, but you're just overwhelmed with this sensation, and you kind of like, I just get it. Like, and it's hard to explain it to people. But it is really powerful, and like I said, a numinous experience, when you have it, it just completely transforms you. It's like you just walked into a space or element that really transforms you right off. So that's that. What I was going to talk about today was the epiphanal experience. Now, what an epiphany is, the more generic term for that is the aha moment. Okay, it's an aha moment. It's that moment where you wake up and you're just suddenly awake. Whatever it is that has been clouding you, that you've been confused about, you just suddenly have this moment where you get it. Okay, and that's what they would call an epiphanal experience. Now, epiphanies can happen in a variety of places. I think I remember one of my professors talking about how James Joyce was watching a play or an opera or something and suddenly had this epiphanal experience about something. It's a sudden inspiration that comes up. They will talk about runners. If there's somebody who's an athlete who likes to run, and as they're running, you get that runner's high. In the middle of that runner's high, you can have sometimes something like an epiphanal experience. So it can manifest as a thought, as a sudden clarity of thought. Or just a sudden, it's similar in a way to that certain aspect of the numinous, where all of a sudden you're just in a space and you're like, oh, whoa, wait, I don't know. It's just a moment where something in some pieces of your life that have not made sense suddenly come together, and you're able to see the bigger picture, and you're able to understand something that has eluded you. Okay, so that's an epiphanal moment. And epiphanal moments, like I said, we talk about them as moments, like aha moments. But sometimes they're very gradual. An epiphanal thing can come on it can come on just very, very suddenly and very slowly. It can be like a gradual waking up. Like you just suddenly, it's kind of like, wait a minute. You just suddenly start to come into an awareness of something. And then all of a sudden, it becomes clear. And maybe it could be a collection of experiences that come together. Like I was talking a little bit about yesterday with, it could be dreaming, and then maybe you could get a reading, and then maybe you could have a synchronicity over here, and then see this and go, oh, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, now I see the point. Now I see the thing. And the epiphanal experience may be about something. It could be about something in your life that you need an inspiration about. If you've not been sure, a lot of people, when they're not sure what their track forward is, when they don't know, when they know, like I said, when I always talk about leaving something behind and going, okay, I know I need to leave this behind. I know this is not me. I know this is life draining or whatever. I know I need to go into this new space, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. So the thing there that can come up, that can kind of sort this for you, is an epiphanal experience. And I think people are having more and more of those, and when they're starting to be able to see the big picture. And I think when I was talking about Archangel Gabriel and inspiration a little bit before, that's what I think that's part of that. That's this idea that you can, you can't think your way to an epiphany. In other words, it's not something that you reason out in your mind. You can't sit there and go, well, I'm just going to sit here and think about this long enough and I'm going to have an epiphany. I don't know. Maybe it works that way for some people, but generally speaking, when we over dissect and over analyze, we're really breaking things down into smaller and smaller pieces, so we can't see the big picture. And the big picture is that's the thing. I mean, it's trying to be able to see, where all the different pieces of your life are going to fit in. So for example, you may have an idea about how you want to change your career or how you want to change your job. And good morning, Sudha. You may have an idea about how you want to change things, but you may have another situation. Maybe if you're married, for example, or if you have kids, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I'd like to make this change and make this move, but how is this going to affect everybody else? You could have a family situation. Just to use, again, myself as an example, because I always don't like to use, other people's stuff. I want to move abroad. And for a while I've been sitting here going, okay, I can't figure out how that's going to happen. So, how is that going to happen? And so, but then, and also because I have a situation, I have a mother who is not well, and she's quite old, and just kind of like it was with my father, although I did actually go and travel when my father was sick, which made my mother very, very upset. But I said he was sick for 10 years, and he was just kind of in a chronic decline. And as it turns out, I was gone for 6 months. I came back, he was still here, and he did die 2 months later, but I was here. So everybody who was just, very angry at me for for going away, I was like, well, that's what I needed to do, and he knew about it. He was fine with it because I talked to him about it. And but now it's kind of like my mother is, she's definitely showing signs of decline. But my sister and I talk about this quite often because and I'm sure anybody who's dealt with an older parent or a grandparent or something has dealt with something like this, where, she'll call up my sister and they'll have a conversation, and then she'll call my sister back an hour later, like they've never had the conversation. This happens, it's happening a lot now. So, she's, and she's got some other health issues going on as well. But again, she's 87. It's like, well, stuff happens as you get older. The body does break down. And I think she's kind of afraid to find out what a lot of that might mean for her, because she keeps she's making doctor's appointments and then resisting and going, oh, I don't know. She doesn't want to be woken up to what that is. So ultimately, it's kind of like that's been part of the message I've had for myself lately too. Is just like, you know what, she is who she is and what she is at this point, and getting frustrated with her or saying, you really need to be doing this or that is kind of pointless at this point. She's fiercely independent. She's totally her own person, and she's very stubborn about how she wants things. She's Aries Taurus, just like me. We're 1 day apart in birthdays. I'm April 20th. She's April 21, and so she has that. And I said, I could look at a lot of that, and I said I should take some lessons from that too, because I know that when some of these things I looked back at, I said, yeah, some of the big mistakes I've made in life is because I've just been absolutely stubborn and insistent that something has to be the way that I want it to be. And I'm like, yeah, maybe this is a good illustrative example as to why maybe you need to kind of trust that maybe everything's not the way you think it is at times. So in any case, but that's sort of my example is just like, okay, I feel like it's saying, you're going to kind of still be here until things are sorted out with your mom, whatever that means, until things are sorted out, that might be something that keeps you from moving forward. But again, that's one of those things that, you can't really plan for or control or anything like that. That just is what it is. But I don't know, things could turn out to be a little differently. But so we have these different things. Point being is that we have these different pieces of things. And we say, I feel like this is the plan. This is where I need to go. This is what I need to do. But then it's kind of like, but then it's just a matter of how that fits into all of the other pieces. So, so I don't know, but I feel like more people are moving towards these epiphanal moments, and it's almost like picking up little treasures, like one at a time. You're starting to see, you're starting to pick up all the puzzle pieces, and you're starting to see how they fit together. And sometimes we have a grand aha moment where we just suddenly, the whole picture's revealed. Okay, and you can see the whole thing, and you can see where you're going. And while you can't, it's this balance between control and what you can't control. I feel like the more that we kind of set our intention without trying to interfere with it, the more we pay attention to our dream material, the more we pay attention to the signs around us, the clearer the picture becomes. So really, that it's just this idea that there's this awakening that happens, and it can happen gradually or it can happen very, very suddenly. Speaking of certain things, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit because, I do the Azrael channelings. I have another one that I'm going to be posting. I reviewed it the other day. I just got to put title screens on it and set it up and do that kind of stuff. But the one thing that's coming through, because I also talked to Azrael through, I have a set of Enochian cards, and I think I've talked about that I made myself, because Enochian is the language of the angels. And if you remember, one of the things I said that he has said to me was when we were talking about, this is just a politics specific thing, and I'm not going to get into politics, but people are often asking about the Trump-Biden matchup in the U.S. I know people are looking at the UK elections too now because this kind of there's the Liberal Democrats, but there's Tory Labour basically. The Lib Dems don't tend to always have that great of a showing. But I know that's happening on July 4th of all days, which is American Independence Day over in the UK. But here, we're coming up to the point of nominating. And one of the things that Azrael said to me last month was, and again, I'm not the only person who said this, okay, or have heard, who got this message. I know other people have. I've seen astrologers that have said this as well, that neither one of these men are going to be the nominee or going to be president. And I was like, well, how is that even possible? And what was interesting was last Monday, I got another message from Azrael. He kept giving me number 4. He's like, 4. I forget what the Enochian word is for 4 now, because I have it on my thing, but it was like 4 kept coming up. I was like, what's in 4? I said, is this 4 days? He's like, yeah, 4 days. I said, what 4 days? He's like, something important in 4 days. And it was weird, because 4 days was the 27th. Now, that was the day my power was out, so I wasn't doing anything, but apparently that was the day of the presidential debate, the debate between Trump and Biden. And, so I said, yeah, that's going to be significant. And it's really interesting because now they're talking about, like, is Biden going to actually be the nominee after all this? So I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird how I'm watching this unfold. I don't think in the case of Trump that it will unfold the same way. I don't think, like, the party's going to get together and talk to him or see. I don't know that that's going to be the case. But whatever. It just seems like somehow things are unfolding in a way that I'm just kind of like, okay, this is interesting. Now, does that automatically mean that that's the way things are going to turn out? I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't. All I know is that's the message I got. And I just think it's really interesting watching this unfold like this because I'm like, okay. I feel like there's still, where we just kind of decided that this is what it was going to be. Like something has shifted and something has changed. I don't know. I also feel like there may be, I think I've talked about timeline shifts before, and, about and I mentioned the whole thing with the Large Hadron Collider and people saying like, oh, CERN busted a hole in space-time and things got different, and, again, whether that's what happened or not, I'm not making any claims to that. That's just an interesting thing that I had heard from that boy who was like 11 and he was like a genius. He was already like, at MIT or something. I mean, he was just this really smart kid who had said that he thought that would happen. Everybody kind of went, that's so funny. And I don't know. I mean, it could be an explanation for it, but right now, I just feel like something is shifting again. That's kind of the message that I'm getting, is something is shifting again. And maybe that's why I'm bringing up epiphanies today, because I feel like the big picture is going to start, and I'm not just talking about politics and stuff. I feel like the big picture is going to be changing in general. There's going to be a lot of changes, and it seems to have a lot to do with the balance of masculine and feminine, okay? And in particular, because people who follow me on Cattonia know that I've always dealt with the dark feminine, and you're saying, yeah, anything is possible. Yeah, right, exactly. But it's interesting how things seem to be going along a certain track, and then they suddenly shift track. And I feel like there could be, you hear a lot about time shifts and stuff, and people who say you can shift into different timelines or you can do different things, and I think probably for most people, perceptually, I don't know. I mean, in terms of how it affects the collective, I don't know how often that happens or how often that works. I mean, like I said, we've talked about this before, time glitches and stuff like that, people who feel like they've been shifted to another timeline. But I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like an experience that everybody has, but it's just weird. I just feel like maybe there's been another shift. And so that's my impression. And we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I did get these kinds of things that were coming through like things are shifting, things are shifting. You know, the way that we've all assumed this is all going to come out is not necessarily the way it's going to come out. Yeah, like Melissa says, anything's possible, right? So, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm thinking of epiphanies, because I think there's a need for people to pay attention to these things around them. You know, your own inner voice, your own guides, your own dreams, which are there, which is that unconscious language that guides you, and also what you might see in the environment. You might dream about something, and then you might pull up stuff in your feed, and it's all about some theme that's connected to something you saw in your dream. Or you go outside and you see a bird, and that bird you associate with something that has to do with something that you've been, you know, doing and talking about. Like if you go and look up the symbolism. I mean, these are just, you know, examples, but if we pay attention to what's going on around us, I feel like those aha moments come a little more often. And it's not trying to work it all out in our mind. It's like that when we just kind of leave it and we let the environment talk to us, that we can have those moments. And I don't know, I just feel like we're kind of entering a phase where I think people are going to start having those moments more and more. Like the things that they really want, the things they feel they've had to compromise on. It's almost like, okay, here's going to be the solution. This is how we're going to fix it. Or this is how it's going to be adjusted to balance things out, you know? So, I don't know. It's interesting. Let's do our reading for today. Oh, and incidentally, those who had took the dream class, I had gotten some feedback that people would have liked to have had done some additional dream workshopping and stuff like that. So I may try to put something together like that. I do have people who have signed up for subscriptions, like multiple Rahani sessions and things on my website. There's a group that it adds you to, and I'm going to start adding material to that. As I said in the beginning of the live stream, I'm going to be doing a lot of video stuff today. So, and I'm going to try to do some of it outside because it's so nice, and then just kind of edit things together. Yeah, it's just, so I'm going to think about offering something like that. I'll probably just email the group and see how many people are interested, and then maybe we could, maybe put a series of workshops together or something, you know, again, not very expensively, to do that, or people maybe who are part of certain groups, maybe it's just, we'll just do it, you know, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but, anyway, haven't figured that out yet, totally. Okay, so this is interesting. Our overall card here today is the politics card. Remember I was just talking about politics? That's weird because a message that I got this morning, it was saying that something about the voices that you hear now are making empty promises, which is interesting. I got that in the Enochian this morning, and I'm like, who are you talking about? Like, who's doing that? But it just feels more like that's more of a collective thing. Like promises that are being made about things that people, you know, again, maybe, and it was pointing maybe to leaders more, but it was kind of like saying, you know, that there's a, that there's almost this energy of people who are not being truthful, or people who are playing politics. So maybe that's why it's saying you want to have those epiphanal ha-ha moments. Maybe that's the reason that topic comes up. But politics can also have to do with self-sabotage. It can be the way in which we play politics with ourselves. And the way in which we talk ourselves into or out of situations. And this is Seven of Clouds, so it's swords energy. So we're talking about mental energy. So again, there's this caution about the way in which we can think ourselves into traps of certain things. That's kind of the meaning there. The inner feeling of which we are unaware. Okay, yeah, this friendliness card, which we got yesterday. And this card, I think, has to do with the twos. This is almost like the idea. Okay, well, first of all, it's the idea of working with others, supporting others, having a mode of friendliness towards people. So to me, this is a lot about heart opening. Okay, so there could be people who are experiencing a heart opening. There may be this sense of trying to kind of sabotage this kind of a thing, where maybe because we don't trust certain people in situations, we may want to close up again. Okay, but there is an opening that's going on. So as an opening goes on, as we become more vulnerable, protection is also important. That we protect, that we stay grounded, and that we stay protected. I think that's a piece of it as well. That we're not in a space where we are, where we don't just automatically, if something feels not right, understand that maybe it's not right. Like go more, again, trying to trust your feelings. But also there's this sense of making sure that the aspects of us that want to sabotage what we're doing, whatever influences or patterns we may be trying to break out of, that they might come in as we are moving towards where we want to go, that might come in and go, oh no, but you can't do this because, it's that kind of an energy as well. It's the way in which we play politics with ourselves. Interesting, another Alan Wattsism. He had talked about when we are trying to silence the mind. He talked about it in terms of a house that has multiple levels, and he said it would be like if a thief breaks into this is like the energy of the thief breaking into your house. And so when the police come in to go after the thief, and he hears the police come in, he just goes up another level. And then when they go to the next level, he goes up another level. So it's saying, so that to me is more about watching out for where, when it comes to realizations, make sure it's not the ego that's just gone up another level, or that same kind of energy that's just, masquerading as something higher, so to speak. And again, me with high and low, but just that this might be, so people might be dealing kind of with that. And the external thing we have here is the slowing down card, the Knight of Pentacles. So, I feel like this goes back to what I'd said earlier about night energy. It's like, as we're opening up, give ourselves time to integrate, and even if we feel like we don't have a lot of time for something, because when we feel like we have to hurry, and we have to hurry up and do something right now, sometimes this energy can come in and say, oh, well, then this is the way you have to do it if you want to do it now. So, so when we're talking about epiphanies and epiphanal experience, I feel like this is saying, that we always kind of have to watch out and understand that there's that voice there that sometimes tries to masquerade as something else. So a true epiphanal moment is one where you feel it, like in all parts of you. You really feel it. If there's a part of you that's going, I don't know, you might want to consider that. Okay, so we have our Queen of Pentacles. So we've got the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. This is our flowering card. Okay, so this definitely indicates that people viewing this reading are in a period of flowering. This is a period where you are going to, again, come into who you are. Show the people what your gifts are. Reaching out with the heart to other people, being able to be open and vulnerable. And ultimately, we have this Three of Pentacles, which is Three of Rainbows, which is the guidance card. Okay, so we have this kind of angelic guidance. Isn't that interesting? We're talking about Rahani and angelic guidance, but this is the kind of image that we have. So for some people say, if that language is not, if people have a hard time with that language, I guess, or they say, well, I'm not really so much into that, then really, this card is really also about just listening to your inner voice. Okay, just listening to your own inner voice and what you need to do. So, okay, so to look at this holistically, to see this card in the center with all of these other cards around it, this just suggests to me your heart is, okay, I think that the general message is your heart is opening. Take your time. Don't feel like, you may have a rush of energy, but make sure you take time to integrate everything. Keep your feet on the ground, okay? Because grounding is important as we have inspiration. We want to make sure that those things are working together so that we don't rush into something and go, oh no, I feel like that's a mistake, and then we close down again, right? So you don't want to do that. You are in a place of flowering, and you want to trust that guidance. And again, for some people, that might be the angelic guidance. It might be your spirit guides. It might be it might, like I said, it just might be getting in touch with that inner voice and hearing that. But whatever it is we're dealing with here, there definitely seems to be the sense of, okay, I almost feel like the message is like, go for it, and don't. There's certain voices that might be coming in right now that might be trying to kind of pull us back. Saturn is retrograde right now. And I was reading something this morning. It was actually somebody who had posted, this guy John Wilson, who does something called Jung in the World. And he has a daily, he's a Substack that you can subscribe to. I've done interviews with John. And he was talking about James Hillman, and how he would talk about what we call the puer and senex, what we call the child and the old man archetypes. And he said another name, Hillman called those chance and system. And so, yeah, it's a question of, so that senex, that Saturn energy is more the system, and the puer energy is more chance, like the fool energy, like I'm willing to take a risk on something, right? And I mean, definitely, so there really needs to be kind of a balance of those kinds of elements of that puer senex energy. So what you're doing is you're saying, okay, yes, you want to take risks. You want to do it, wisely. You want to be wise about you. You want to keep your feet on the ground about how you're doing that. But at the same time, you don't want that system to sabotage you. Okay, you don't want to be held back, or think that because sometimes we can talk ourselves into those compromising situations, or think, well, I'm going to do this, but maybe now it's not the time. I don't know. I feel like that people are being guided to move into this new space. Like I said, whether it's your own inner voice prompting you, whether it's your guides prompting you, however you want to look at that, there is definitely this sense of, that I feel like if you're feeling inspired to do something and you're being kind of filled with doubt about something, I think this is saying, look, you need to go for it. Again, keep your feet on the ground, think about the practicals. I also think with this friendliness card, it may also be seeing like how, not only how you open your heart to others, but how do you work with others, right? How can other people help you in what it is that you're doing? So, so I think that's interesting. So I feel like, we're in a lot of time of awakening, and there may be things out there that may make us doubt what we're seeing or what we're thinking. I mean, even when you listen to me talk about things, I'm like, okay, I'm getting these messages about this, but, because when I look at it, apparently I'm kind of saying, well, I don't know quite how that's going to happen, but yet it does seem like things are shifting or unfolding in a way that might happen. So we'll have to see. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. It's about 15:15 already. If you join me late, I am going to actually have the recording on here. So if you want to go back and review it, you can hear my whole spiel this morning about everything. So thank you guys so much for joining me. You're welcome. I'm so glad to be back doing this. I mean, I was doing it this weekend. I told people I wouldn't be back till Monday, but my power came on Friday, I think. So I was able to finally, by the afternoon, do some stuff. So we're back on track here again. Everybody have a really great week. Have a great Monday if that's possible, right? Have a great Monday. And so I will see all of you tomorrow morning. And also noon today at the Katonia podcast live stream, if you want to join me there. Take care. Bye-bye.